Clean energy is on track to become a central pillar of China's economic growth, according to a new report. In 2024, the clean industry sector accounted for 10% of China's GDP, overtaking the value of real estate sales for the first time. And it's forecast to continue growing. The Centre for Research on Energy and Clean Air says that in 10 years, China's clean energy industries could double in value. That would add $2.1 trillion to the economy. Well, Belinda Schaepe is China Policy Analyst at the Centre for Research on Energy and Clean Air. Good to see you, Belinda. So how is China managing to grow its clean energy sector so fast?
Thank you. What we're seeing is really an economic transformation away from heavy industry sectors towards high-end manufacturing, especially driven by clean energy sectors. And one of the key drivers behind that is a very clear policy direction. President Xi Jinping said in a recent high-level speech that since he made the climate announcements for China to peak emissions before 2030 and achieve carbon neutrality by 2060, China has built the largest renewable energy system together with the relevant supply chain. So we expect if that policy direction continues and there's continued support for a build-out of renewables throughout the next decade, the sector could indeed double in value and make a huge contribution to China's targets to become a moderately prosperous society by 2035, adding around a fifth of the targeted GDP growth by then.
So if China does keep growing this clean energy sector, what would that mean perhaps for global net zero targets?
Yeah, it would make a huge contribution because those are technologies that China needs for its own domestic transition, but it's also technologies that the world needs for the transition. So in terms of China's domestic emissions, it could actually cut emissions by roughly 30% compared to the current levels by 2035. And that would put China on track to achieve the targets under the Paris Agreement and its international climate commitments, and really maintain its or strengthen its role as a global climate leader when we see a withdrawal and tense multilateralism around the world. China could really stand out in bringing a strong commitment to global climate targets.
So presumably this growth in clean energy good for productivity, for China's GDP. Just how big can the sector get?
It can really become a huge part. Already, as you mentioned, in last year, the sector contributed 10% to the economy. Doubling that in the next 10 years would result in roughly 30 trillion Chinese yuan that the sector contributes. And if we put that into context, that's around as big as the total GDP of G7 economies like Germany or Japan. So it would really contribute a large part of what is needed for China's targeted GDP by 2035, roughly 20%. And with that, take up a lot of the economic growth that is going to fall away from traditional growth sectors such as the real estate sector and heavy industry.
Belinda, thank you for coming on the programme. That's Belinda Schaepe from the Centre for Research on Energy and Clean Air.